we are live. I think, yeah, there we go, we are live. So I'm just quickly checking here if everything is working. And I think it is. Welcome everyone, thank you so much for joining into this live stream. I had already started a drawing. I'm just going to draw lots of portraits today. I'm going to use a ballpoint pen and my sketchbook and maybe some other pens as well. I have some other pens ready here. I think it's almost 4 o'clock. I'm a little bit early, but it doesn't really matter because we're going to do lots of small drawings today. So I'm just making sure everything works and I'm going to get started, and it does seem to be working, so that is wonderful. Thank you so much for joining in. I am going to do a bit of portrait practice. I'm going to use a ballpoint pen to start with. You can see I had already started a little bit, so if you feel like if you fancy joining in, grab yourself some materials and a sketchbook and maybe get started as well. I love drawing a ballpoint pen, it's one of my favorite mediums. And I'm using references from my Pinterest portrait reference board, which I have linked in the chat already. So if you want to draw along, know that you can find that in the chat. So, and I'm just going to have a little bit of fun and do a bit of sketching today. So I started with this portrait of an elderly woman, I think. You have to be a bit careful with that. So, and what I love about drawing in ballpoint pen is that you can make lighter marks and darker marks, and you can go really light or go really dark. And the fact that you have that range is just fantastic, and that means that it's a really good medium to sketch with and to draw with. So I'm making sure I'm sharp. I have some paint marks here, but that's okay. This is my Sea White of Brighton sketchbook, and I started to use it for pen drawings, but I slowly started to move more into lots of different mediums. So you can see this page has a bit of paint on it. So I don't think this first drawing is going to be my best drawing ever, but that's okay because the first one never is. So I will move on to the next picture shortly. The more you draw, the more you get used to drawings not being great. Maybe that sounds funny because you'd think you get better and better, but a big part of drawing is getting used to making drawings that are not that great and be okay with them. Because when you first start out, you want every drawing to be perfect, and then when you make one that's not so great, and that can be really disappointing, and then it maybe stops you from creating. But if you draw lots and lots, you get used to that process of getting used to trying out different mediums, and that sometimes a drawing comes out a bit better and at another time it comes out not so good, and that is okay. So here's my first messy sketch. So I think I will leave this one for what it is for now. So let's pick another reference photo. So as I said, if you want to draw along, the references are on my Pinterest board. The Pinterest board is my drawing portrait references. So if you go to my Pinterest, you can find one of my boards that says drawing portrait references, and then you can find all the references that I'm using today. Good morning, Yvonne, really lovely to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And Rain Sarai, I hope I pronounced it correct. Really lovely to see you as well. It's always really lovely to see you. I've seen you lots around, so that is really wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just getting carrying on, the next person that I'm drawing is an interesting shaped face, so quite sort of triangle. So you can see I'm not sketching with sketch pen, so I'm going straight in with pen today. And I love drawing a ballpoint pen. So these are the eyebrows. One of the great things of drawing in pen is just that you can create lots of little lines, and they all sort of connect together, and all these like little mistakes and little fine lines that you might not want in there, they sort of disappear after a while. I hope that makes sense once we start drawing a bit more. So, and on this board, on this Pinterest board, you will find lots of different faces. I really try and select faces that are really diverse, different ages and different type of people. So this is someone who's a bit bigger with some interesting wrinkles. I love drawing wrinkles, there's something about that. Yeah, that's one of the wonderful things what I like about drawing in pen, is that you can do it in your lunch break and that you don't need any fancy materials to do some art. There's this really big misconception where people feel that they need to buy really expensive materials, but in reality sometimes simple materials are all you need. So a ballpoint pen is absolutely brilliant. I did a whole sketchbook full with ballpoint pen portraits, which is a sketchbook tour that you can find here on YouTube. And you can really see the journey. It's quite an old sketchbook now, it's from 2019. So that feels like a long time ago now already. But yeah, that's how I started drawing people, is by just doodling in pen. And because I used quite a cheap sketchbook and cheap materials, it really feels like there's less pressure to make something that is perfect or really realistic. If I use my expensive paint, there's much more pressure of creating something nice. The ballpoint pen is just brilliant. I absolutely love drawing in pen. I think everyone should do it. So I'm just slowly adding in a little bit of shadows in this sketch. So you can slowly see some marks appear, some shape appear. I do a lot of hatching. So hatching is where you have lines in one direction, and then cross hatching you go over it in the opposite direction, and it's a really great way of adding some quick shadows to your drawing. So I am using references for these. I am not making up these faces by myself. I'm following some reference pictures. So the area here under the eye can be a bit darker. So you can really layer up your colors, and slowly they become darker and darker. So it's such a great practice. So it is really, really lovely weather today. I have already had quite a busy day. I did some volunteering this morning, which I do once a week, and then I was filming for my abstract landscape course, and my painting has become really messy. I don't think I'm going to use it for the course, but that's also a reality of doing the work that I do, that sometimes you film something and you spend an hour filming and you think, oh, this is just not going anywhere. It doesn't happen so often, because I want to show that part as well, so I try to sort of show a bit of everything also when things go wrong. That happened, and then I'm now doing this, so lots of art today. lots of creative time. So let's add in some wrinkles here. Should I zoom in a little bit more? This is a little sneak peek from my podcast that is not coming out this week, but the week, like 2 weeks after that. The picture that we created together for the podcast. So a little bit more shadows there. And I love how the lines do not have to be perfect. You can slowly search for that shape and then add in a little bit more shadows. And so you can see that I start to feel a little bit more confident. It always takes a little bit of time to find your confidence when you're drawing. This first portrait is terrible in comparison. Well, if I look at the photo, I don't think it looks like that person at all. And I'm not going for 100% likeliness, but I do want to have the sort of character, what I'm seeing there. I want to take out something that, what it was that inspired me in the photo. So these are only short sketches. There's not time for hyper-realism. So and I very often draw women, so it's quite nice to put in some, change it up a little bit. I did lots of gardening yesterday, planted lots of bulbs, and I really feel like spring is in the air here. So let me make that eye a bit darker, and then I might move on to the next one. I don't really feel like it's finished, but I don't want to spend too long on each sketch. That's the part of the exercise, is to move on quite fast. I could have set a timer, but I did not in the end. So maybe a little bit of shadow here underneath. And ballpoint pen ink dries really fast. It's sort of designed to dry fast. It's meant to dry fast, but it can still, it is still ink, so it stays wet for a little while. And sometimes you have to be a little bit careful when you go over it with your hand to not wipe it. So, made a bit of an outline. There we go. So I feel like I start to relax into my drawing a little bit. It always takes a bit of warming up, getting used to it. So let's draw another person. So I'm going to move my book up a little bit. So we can still see this one, and I can draw here. Gardening is really bad for your nails, isn't it? So I did my nails last night, trying to recover it a little bit, but it's hard sometimes. Let me see which one I'm going to pick. Some of these I have made drawings of in the past. So this is a younger face. I'm going to start here. So this is the hair. If you look at the Pinterest board, see if you can find what reference photo it was. Yeah, so that sketchbook that I did, that is from challenge. It's a challenge called Met 100 Heads, where you draw 100 faces. I think officially it is 100 faces in a month or in a week or something. I definitely spent a bit longer on that. I don't have that much time to fill a sketchbook. But it's a really great practice, really great way of practicing your portrait skills to do that many portraits sort of in one go. So her neck is sort of this way. So you can see I usually start with an outline and then slowly adjust that. And I know that there's a lot of different ways of drawing faces, a lot of drawing portraits. I'm also going for a bit of an illustrative style here, so I don't mind if the portrait is not super realistic. But I tend to start with an outline, which I know is something that a lot of people do differently. So she's having quite a funny expression. So just trying to get that right. So I think drawing teeth can be quite difficult. But the trick is to not overthink it, just draw what you see. So there we go. Let me know if you're drawing along. I'm always curious. There we go. That's her mouth, and I think this one is going to be a little bit tricky, but that's okay. I found drawing older people a little bit easier. You have all these wrinkles to focus on and other things to add in. Adding some shadows here. So I need to make her lips a bit darker. I think it will look like she's wearing lipstick, but that is okay, otherwise it looks a little bit yeah, not the way I want it to look. So make that nice and dark. She's got beautiful black hair. So I think for the next page I might use a brush pen just to show you how I would approach a portrait drawing in a brush pen. Ballpoint pen works really great, but I also love drawing a brush pen and switch it up a bit. So I'm just adding in the shadows. If you want to draw along, I've said this a few times already, but I know people are sort of popping in and out. I know it's also a Monday afternoon. Lots of people are at work, so if you're joining in later as well, that's absolutely fine. But if you're if you're joining in and you want to know the reference picture, it is from Pinterest, and I have linked it in the chat a little bit higher up. if you go to my Pinterest board and then to portrait drawing references, then you will find the photo that I am using. So I don't mind that sort of slightly cartoony look. I'm actually quite pleased with that. I think that is sort of the look that I was going for today. So there we go. I think I need to find someone with a beard to draw. So these are all really fast drawings as well. I'm not going for perfection here or for lots of detail. If I was making a detailed portrait, I would spend much more time on the proportions and getting everything right. This is almost as if I am being in like a cafe or something and just drawing the people around me. Want the hair a little bit darker. I like that sort of scribbly feeling that you get when you are drawing in ballpoint pen, and it really feels like you're in school and you're in a lecture and you're doing something that whilst you're paying attention, you're sort of doodling away in your book. Excuse me. Let's pick another reference photo. I think I'll do one more in ballpoint pen and then maybe move on to another picture. So let me pick one that I haven't done yet before. Someone with a beard maybe. So again, starting with the main outside shape and then slowly starting to add more and more details to it. So the nose is here, maybe a little bit longer. This is going to be the beard. So here's going to be one eye and the other. I'm just going with a really rough sketch first and then slowly adding in more details. So shape of the nose. We did a portrait in the charcoal class as well yesterday. I don't know if any of you were there. I still have it here somewhere. Ah, this is the one. This is the picture that we made in charcoal yesterday. And what I love about charcoal is that you can really move things around and slowly sort of, it's almost manipulate things, so you can use your eraser to tinker and to make changes. I'll post little reels or something about this, the creation of it later. But you can also still watch it back in my community, the whole class. But yeah, I really like doing portraits in charcoal. Charcoal is such a great medium for that. So, there we go. So I'm just slowly starting to add some extra details in. The eyebrows are actually quite dark, so I can make them a bit darker. There's quite a lot of shadows here along the side of the face. So, I know there's always lots of people from the US joining in. I think it's school holidays here now. I don't have children, so it doesn't really matter to me if it's school holidays or not. But I always hear from a lot of my friends that they're super busy with kids at home, things like that. So, adding in a bit more shadows. I'm just doodling and scribbling until I have that color in place. So as I said, I started this book as a sketchbook for pen drawings, but I'm never really good at keeping to a specific theme. So, plus my watercolor sketchbook is now full. I need to buy another one. So until I have another one, I work on loose paper, but until I have another one, I will just use this one for all sorts of mediums. I use my watercolor sketchbooks more for mixed medium than for only watercolor usually. So. Let's make the eyes a bit darker. I think this one can be a bit closer to the nose. So. I quite like this face. I think it came out a little bit better than the last one. A little bit more shadows here, and I think then I'm going to move to the next page. So, and I think sometimes people forget that a sketchbook is okay to be messy. It's okay to make terrible drawings and to mess it up and to create lots of scribbles and marks. And a sketchbook that's what sketchbooks are for. Well, if you want it, anyway. Sometimes people feel, because there's so many beautiful sketchbook artists here on YouTube and other places where you, which you see like the selection of really curated work, but I think often that is not really what a sketchbook is about, and a lot of people don't use their sketchbooks to create curated work. For a lot of people, sketchbook is a place to, like almost like a journal, or a place to express yourself, or a place to discover, different materials and try things out. So important to remember that. So this was my ballpoint section. I'm going to move on, and I'm going to use my my fountain pen. And see if I can quite a quick example. I have done some fountain pen portraits in here before. So when you work in fountain pen, it sort of creates, and you add water, and if your pen is water soluble, you can create these really lovely shadows with your pen, and that's what I'm going to try and do. So I'm drawing with pen and then going to add some water to create some interesting textures. So the goal is to get not too detailed, so maybe a little bit more in that style. Don't be too detailed and just have a little bit of fun with this. So it's a technique that I really enjoy, that I'm going to show you now. There we go. So let's find a picture. This one. This is from a statue. So the ink in this fountain pen is not waterproof. So, and I'll work a little bit smaller here than what I did on the last page. So. Go. There's the nose. So I'm trying to capture just the main basic shapes of this person. She's looking sort of a little bit down. I love drawing in pen, and when you draw in pen this way, you really don't have all this control. It's a little bit more free. Something that I use quite a lot for urban sketching or for when I'm outdoors. Just a quick sketch. So this is, I think, from a religious statue or something. That's a little bit better. So you can go over an area a few times to make it a bit darker. So, but then, let me show you, this is where the magic happens. So, close my pen. Where is my water brush? I'll use this one. Quickly testing it. Yeah, it works. I can use that water brush to then add in a little bit of shadow. See, there we go. Just by going over that drawing, we can add in a little bit of shadow, those darker areas. Hi Diana, really lovely to see you here. So, I hope you're well. It is, what time is it here? 4 o'clock, 4:30. It's still really lovely and sunny, which is really nice. So I'm just adding in a bit of shadows here under her hair. I'm trying not to overdo it. The shadows are really there for a bit too much. To give shape to the face. So you can see this is not the most precise way of drawing, but it is a technique that I really love and always really enjoy. If you are still drawing in ballpoint pen, that's absolutely fine. Just keep going in pen. You don't need to use ink and wash. So I think that might be. She does look a little bit annoyed, doesn't she? I think this might be my sketch for this person. So let's do another one. And I did say this already, but if you are drawing along, my reference photos are from Pinterest, and they're all from my Pinterest board, drawing, portrait drawing references, and the link is all the way at the beginning of the chat. So I'll repeat that a few times so everyone knows where to find it, so then you can find the references that I'm using as well. Drawing portrait references. So I'll do another face here. I'm just making sure you can see it. It's always a bit of a trick of getting everything on camera, isn't it? So there we go. So same technique, using my fountain pen. So this person is wearing this turban, this really beautifully woven fabric. So folded, I should say. I don't know if it's woven. So this is an ear. And this is not my most precise way of drawing, but it is a technique that I always really enjoy, and I love it for quick sketches. So, beautiful sharp cheekbone. I don't know if you can see the face sort of appear already. These are the eyes. So, dark eyebrows. And you can see my marks are not super precise, but what I'm trying to capture is the expression and sort of the essence. So beard, essence of this person. What is it that grabs my attention, and how many lines do I need to put that face on the paper? So the beard could be a little bit bigger, bushier. So, and remember, I can add in those shadows with that water, as I did with this first portrait, and that's what I will do in a moment. So I'm just sort of deciding here, there's some hair here, how much of it I'm going to draw and what I'm going to suggest with some shadows in a moment. So there we go, maybe a bit more of the fabric here. That carries on a bit longer, but I will let that sort of stop there. So, there we go. I think this might be my sketch in ink so far. Just going a little bit down. So there we go. So make sure you can see what I'm doing. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go over that with my water brush. And you don't need a water brush. You can use a cup and a brush with water. Because I use this technique a lot when I'm on the go and for quick sketches outside. I like to use this water brush. So let's see. So I first want to add in some shadows here. So under the beard, I might keep that beard a bit lighter. Yeah, there we go. Nice dark mark. So you can see that ink really flows out really easy. Hi Katie, really lovely to hear from you. I am glad you enjoyed the Sketchbook revival. I think I have not watched them all yet, but there's still lots of time to watch them back, isn't there? I really enjoyed it as well. It's just so lovely to see how everyone works really different and how every artist has their own sort of way of looking at things. And I know that I'm a professional artist. I've been doing this for quite a few years now, and for me there's still so much to learn. So I think when you're new to art, it must be mind-blowing to see all these different people teaching all these different skills. So yeah, I'm still really enjoying it. Just adding in a bit more water. So see some shadows on the face. So I feel like these are coming out a little bit better than my first sketches that I did on the last page in ink. And that's often the case. The longer you're drawing, the better sort of your drawings come out. It's not usually my first sketch that I'm most happy with. It's usually one a little bit later down the line. I think I might leave that for now. I'm quite happy with that look. So if you're curious, this was the reference. Oh, I'll just quickly check if you can see that. This was the reference photo, and as I said, it is from Pinterest. So I like that. I think it looks good. We're not going for super realism, but I'm looking for my impression, my version of that portrait today. So making sure you can see what I'm doing again. There's always that ever going back and forth. So this is really wet, maybe a little bit too wet. I could soak it up with a bit of tissue paper. So, but I also don't mind if it blurs out a bit. Whatever happens, happens. If a big puddle of ink appears, that's fine. I don't really mind it. This is my experimentation messy sketchbook most of the time. So, next one. So I'm just sticking with the pictures that I have in this Pinterest board that I'm using. Pinterest board that that I've linked above. And I think I'm going to draw this one here. This is a statue. Sometimes drawing from a statue can be really fun. I think it is often a little bit easier than drawing from a photo. Well, a photo from a statue in this case, but drawing from a photo from a person. So if you're really new to sketching faces, yeah, put a few statues in the mix really can help. So these are her eyebrows. She has this a bit of a frown. I don't know if this was a little mermaid or something. She has a bit of a mermaid feel to it, this statue. So you can see my sketch really doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay for it to be a little bit messy. So her eye is going to be here, and this one sort of there. It's a really good way of practicing different expressions and to these quick sketches. So there we go. Her shoulder is sort of up here, I think, because that is sort of part of this pose. I want that to be in here as well. I can't see, so I'll cover that a little bit. I cannot see what happens to the arm outside of that box. So but I know here's the hand, it's a fist. So drawing hands is this whole practice in itself, but we cannot see most of it, it's just a fist here. So this whole area is going to be dark. I'm going to do the same, add some shadows in with water. So I'm seeing if I can get that expression right, the sort of look of concern. So. I think she looks quite concerned. I'm happy with the outcome of the drawing so far. Maybe a bit of shadow there, and I could actually add that in with water. So same thing again. Start with these darkest shadows here. So, and I always find that this makes such a big difference. Just adding those shadows in. I find it a lot of fun to do. Also there. If any of you are drawing along, let me know if you're just watching. So, either way is absolutely fine, of course. I'm just curious. If you're being part of the Sketchbook Revival, you might have signed up for my creative community. So as part of the Sketchbook Revival, one of my free gifts was a month free of my creative community. And I have some live sessions coming up there this week. I think there's one tomorrow. I just need to quickly check my diary. I never really remember when I've planned all these things. I just check in the morning and then like, what was it that I had planned today? Yeah, tomorrow at 5 o'clock, so that's, I don't know where you're based, what time that is, but 5 o'clock UK time. So we will draw together then as well. So this has blurred, there's a bit too much water on the paper, but that's okay, I don't mind it. So I'm just blending that out towards the hair. So you can see that there's a big puddle here. Makes her look really concerned, but that's okay. Maybe a little bit more here. So I quite like it, even though we have this big splash of water there. I think tomorrow we are going to do some sketching from a reference. And it's a little bit more of a class, so we're going to go through everything a bit more step by step together. Oh, fantastic, Diana. I'm glad that you're painting. It's always nice to watch something where people are making things when you're making something, isn't it? I love doing that. So, there we go. So that one is a bit of a splash, but that's okay. Let me pick another picture. So maybe this woman. So if you're curious, I can quickly show you. This is the reference picture I'm going to draw now. Where's my... There we go. So I need to quickly check to make sure I see it. So this is the picture I'm going to draw now. And there we go. So again, that is in that group. I don't always draw from reference. I quite often draw from my memory or imagination. But for today I decided to practice from references. And I don't think there's anything, nothing is better than drawing from life. But that's not always possible. So sometimes you have to make do with what you have, and if you have to work from a photo, if you think about it, it's quite remarkable that we have all these photos to work from nowadays, isn't it? If you think of how people used to practice art. So these are some of these dreads. So how you used to practice art was just by only practicing from life. There was no other way, unless, yeah, or imagination or books. Maybe you'd find some other artist that you could copy and practice from. But nowadays we have all this information that we can use and pictures that we can use, and it's just really wonderful. It might be Willow Smith. She looks a bit like her, doesn't she? It doesn't say. Doesn't say it is. It is. I think it's a model. The photos from Vogue. So I am not very. I don't really know famous people, but I do think she looks a bit like her. So I never recognize anyone, to be honest. Also, when I see a film, I never remember if I've seen a film or not, so I can quite easily see a film 3 times and then at the end realize, oh, I have watched this already. So this is where the nose is going to be roughly. If I look at the picture, where these are just going to be the nostrils. So go. I need to concentrate a little bit for features. So, there we go. Eyes a little bit higher. And I don't know if I can really do a darker skin tone with this ink. I can sort of try it a little bit sort of with shadows, but it is a little bit limiting. So, making the nose a little bit bigger. It doesn't all have to be right straight away. There we go. So some shadows there, some shadows there. What I like about this pen is that I can create quite thick lines. So I can quickly show you. I can create quite thick lines because the edge is a bit flat, so I can create quite thick lines. Or if I use it on the side, I can create really fine lines. And if I use very little pressure, I can create really light, sort of scratchy lines. So the way the ink flows, I really like that. So definitely not as pretty as the young woman in the photo. So maybe a bit of shadows here. A bit of shadow there. It's a little bit bigger. So yeah, just it takes a little bit of time to search for those shapes, and then I will add the water, and it's all a little bit blurry. If you look at this one, it became very blurry. I quite like the effect. So sometimes it's a bit unpredictable, but that's okay. So this is some of the hair. So the one sort of disappears here. So I think it's time to start adding some water to this one. So that's the piercing. Let's add some water. So I'm still using this one. You can see it does look a bit grubby. I do clean it with a little bit of shampoo once in a while, but it is still a little bit green. I painted something green with it at some point. It's not mold, it's just paint. So make my eye a bit darker. So maybe some shadows here around. So that whole jaw can be a little bit more shadows. So I always find this a lot of fun to do. I use a lot of different mediums in my art. And sometimes it's a little bit of somewhat like a downside. I think when you are an illustrator, sometimes it can be really useful to pick one style and one medium and one thing that you do. I just really enjoy using different mediums. That's what I do, and I really like switching things up, trying out different things. And I do think it means that people don't recognize your style so quick, but it also allows you to play a bit more and experiment. And the I can also pick different mediums depending on what project I'm working on. So it's something that has always served me quite well. But if I know that a lot of, like, officially people always say, oh, you have to pick something that works best for you and stick with them. I just like switching up my style and trying different things and playing around, and just I find it really enjoyable. So also sometimes people say that they can recognize my style even though my artwork looks very different in different mediums. I think if you see some of my digital artwork, I think it's very different from this. Or so this is just me musing a little bit, but, or watercolor painting compared to a pen drawing. there's a big blob of water there. I put on a bit too much, but that's okay. So I'm going to let that dry for a moment. So zoom out. Well, I'm really curious how everyone found that. If this was something you enjoyed. It was a little bit of an sort of, yeah, just how I work in my sketchbook, not necessarily in a class where I teach you something. So a quick sip of tea. So, and I have a few more sketchbooks to share at some point. I've been filming some sketchbook tours, but I've got many more. And this one is almost halfway full already, so at some point I can film a sketchbook tour with this one as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining in. Let me know what you think. I am really happy that everyone is here, and I'll see everyone soon. So thanks so much for joining in, and I'll see you all soon. I'm planning to do many more of these live sessions. So if anyone wants to join in, make sure you subscribe, and then you get a little notification every time I schedule something. So thank you so much, Yvonne. Really lovely to see you. Thank you so much. And I will see everyone soon. Bye bye.